Over the past few weeks, Bitcoin has taken some massive hits and we're now at a point where we're hitting key support levels. Today we're going to perform some technical analysis and make some predictions on where we can expect to see Bitcoin go in the near future. Let's get into it. Welcome into the Bitcoin chart, guys. If you'd like to buy Bitcoin or want some free Bitcoin, there are a couple of links down in the description of today's video. And as you can see right now, we are sitting at a value over here of $33,690 per Bitcoin. And we've certainly taken a massive hit from our all-time highs over here back on November the 10th, which was $69,000. We have officially dropped over 50% of our value. So quite a decent pullback, but nothing too untoward when it comes to crypto and in particular Bitcoin. But what we need to do is basically re-baseline ourselves and work out our critical points. First and foremost, $33,000 US is our critical point of support. So what I'm going to do is put a line immediately in place there just to reflect that. So as we can see, we have that point now. I'm just going to adjust this so we can see. And you can see previously, the reason I'm putting this in place is this has been a major point of not only resistance, it's also been a major point of support, as you can see here. And moving back to, the days of where we were going back down in these sort of regions again, major support point there as well. Coming all the way across, you can see we've bounced off this point only just earlier this year in the end of January. And of course, this is where we are now, and we're bouncing off this point once again. This $33,000 mark is absolutely critical, and we need to try and hope that we maintain this level or we will continue to go lower. Worst case scenario at this stage, if the market continues to drop, how low are we going to go? Well, if we go out to the left, as you can see, there's really not too much we can use. I mean, we do have a spike over here back in the day where we saw $19,000 hit back in 2017, but of course we're still quite far away from that. So the point we're going to have to use for our next major point of support is the bottom end of these bounces, as you can see, which occurred over here as well. Right now, I'm going to suggest that the next bounce point after basically our 33,000 point is going to be roughly around the 28,600 mark. You can see that some tail ends have touched this point previously in the past, so it's a major point of resistance or support. And as you can see, if I even move it slightly higher, there's probably been a bit more price action. That's actually, it's sitting just over 29,000. So I'm going to put it in place there. That is sort of, if we break, unfortunately, below our key 33,000 support level, where we are certainly headed. Now, if we bounce, what do we need to be able to get through? Well, we need to identify our areas of resistance, of course. And I don't think it's realistically too much of a horizontal resistance point at this stage. I think we are actually looking at a bit of a trend. And as you can see, if we start to put in place a key line, what we see is the top end of that line is moving quickly towards that $33,000 level. Zoom in a bit just so we get a bit better perspective there. And you can see if I just adjust that down slightly, we have multiple touch points when we're talking about a downtrend here, at least in the short term. And if we try and put a bottom end as well, that bottom end basically I'd suggest fits in right about where we are now. That means we are coming to a critical point where even if we bounce, we are going into this triangular wedge type pattern here, and the price hopefully should start to move sideways, baseline consolidate a bit. Best case scenario, then we get towards this triangular tip and then we break in an upwards direction. If obviously the market does continue to drop, then we will continue, in my opinion, down in this sort of downtrending channel that we have in place now. What else can we look at to sort of determine what's going on? Well, interestingly enough, when we look at history, we see massive volume spikes when it comes to dumps. This has not been the case this time. The volume is extremely low, which suggests one thing: people are not selling off, but also people are not buying up. I think we're watching a scenario where we've got people A, waiting for the bottom to buy, but B, also not selling off their current holdings. So that is a very positive sign at the moment, more so for the fact that we're not seeing massive dumps of Bitcoin at this point in time relative to our previous sort of statistics. And even as we zoom in closer and you can see a bit more of the detail, you can see that overall we are remaining, I'd suggest, you could say we're moving down slightly, but I'd say it's relatively stable from a volume perspective over the past few months, that is for sure. And since the start of this year, there's been rarely any spikes, and the main spikes we have seen are those green spikes there. So all in all, volume wise, we're not seeing much dumping going on. Let's have a look at the relative strength index. The RSI is showing we are now coming to a point where we are almost oversold. The RSI is sitting at 30.83. If we drop below 30, that means we are oversold and we should see a bounce. That also coincides with what we're seeing towards this tight period over here, where we're hoping to see a bit of consolidation and then a break, and hopefully plenty of room then, of course, on the RSI to move upwards. MACD, let's have a quick look at this one. Now the MACD is showing us we had a weak cross back over here, and that means our red period extended, as we talk about very regularly. If we have a weak cross, it's not going to last, and we are unfortunately going to continue the existing trend. Now, interestingly enough, our 12-day and our 26-day EMA are moving away from each other quite rapidly now, and it doesn't look like they are moving around anytime soon. What we need to see is a burst of buying volume come in order to basically kick up the 12-day EMA to cross back above the 26-day EMA, and we need to have a cross that is significant. A significant cross, an example of that would be something like we saw back over here, as you can see, where the 12-day EMA clearly crosses above that 26-day EMA. If we're seeing shallow things like we saw just over here on the 3rd of May, it's not going to last, as you can clearly tell, and we will continue to unfortunately suffer and move through this channel downwards like so. All in all, where does that leave us at the moment? Well, realistically, everything is going to be waiting on this $33,000 mark. And I mean, even if we take a look at some of our actual moving averages as they start to come in, let's grab a few of these and put them in place. Let's have a look, I suppose, first and foremost at our 20-day moving average. Chuck that one in place, and then of course the one following that, our 50-day moving average, we'll make that one red so we can see that highlighted quite clearly. You can see we did have a death cross over here of that 20-day moving below the 50-day moving average, unfortunately. These will be acting both as major points of resistance for us. And then lastly, let's have a look, of course, at the 200-day moving average as well. And this is the long-term moving average, one of major significance. So putting that one in place, we are far below that at this point in time. And unfortunately, that does not bode well for us overall. In order to break out, we would need to pass all 3 points of resistance here that have been caused by our moving averages, break out, of course, firstly, of our downtrending channel and maintain this $33,000 mark. Is it going to occur? Well, it's all going to transpire over the next few days. If I were to suggest a price target, a positive one would be a test of the $38,000 mark, which is the 20-day moving average at the moment. Worst case scenario, I'd suggest we're moving down towards that $29,000 mark, which is basically our other area of support within this sort of channel we are seeing at this point in time. We will see over the next few weeks what transpires, but more importantly, we're sitting right now at that $33,000 mark. So we're going to see if we're going to either bounce today or if we're going to fall through within the next 24 to 48 hours, in my opinion. That wraps up today's analysis on Bitcoin, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments section below. In particular, when do you think the overall crypto market and Bitcoin will start to recover? That is the question I'm sure is on everyone's minds. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it down below. Of course, if you did enjoy today's analysis as well, make sure you do leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this sort of content, hit subscribe and turn on those bell notifications. I'll leave it there for today, guys. I hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you next time. Cheers.